What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Man, this deer season has not gone as expected. I am so blessed and fortunate that I got the 8 point that I got. Did not have that buck on camera. Had no idea it was even anywhere around. My brother didn't have it on camera. My dad didn't have it on camera. So very blessed and fortunate and so thankful to get that buck. After I got that buck, I said, I'm not going to hunt again for a while. I'm going to give my son an opportunity to hunt. Well, he's hunted a few times, hasn't seen anything. Like I said, things have just not really gone as expected this year. And turns out, once again, things have gone and we're getting another curveball thrown at us. So every year we salvage a couple of roadkill deer. We had another deer. We've actually had 3 deer hit along the property here basically in the past couple months. One of them, nobody could find it. I don't know where it went. And then we've actually, I think this is the second one now we've salvaged. So you look there, I've got a little buck in the back of the truck there. Called the local game warden, got a salvage tag. So I'm going to take him down here and butcher him. But it blows my mind actually how few hunters actually make use of roadkill salvaged meat. This deer was hit by the car going up the road in front of us. And we didn't realize it had hit a deer till my brother went back a little bit later and saw debris on the road, and there was a car stopped, and he talked to them, and turns out they had hit a deer. They didn't know what happened to it. He went and found it, and it was buck cold. I mean, it was in the 20s, so the deer's perfectly fine. I mean, obviously, if it's middle of summer and it was laying out there in 80-degree heat, you probably wouldn't want to do it. But in these conditions, this deer is going to be perfectly fine. I don't know what I'm going to get into when I start cleaning it and butchering it. I may find a lot of, damaged meat that I won't be able to use, but you just never know. It all depends on where the deer was hit, how severely it was hit. It was not a big vehicle. It was a smaller car, and it did not, I'm going to say it didn't do a lot of damage to the car. So I'm hoping maybe it's just like a front shoulder or a head and neck kind of injury, and most of the meat is still salvageable. I'm just blown away, though, by how many hunters do not take advantage of this. I get it. I mean, here comes the dog. I get it. I mean, I love hunting just as much as everyone else, but I hunt for the meat. And I cannot walk away leaving a deer on the side of the road and not being used and go out and kill another animal just because I want to kill something. That's not the purpose of hunting. And I know so many hunters that it's almost just like a bloodlust to them. That's all they want to do. They just want to go out and kill stuff. I'm actually surprised at how many hunters I know that do not eat deer. And that I can't comprehend that mentality personally. I don't kill for the fun of killing. I kill to feed my family. And anyway, off that soapbox. Now I'm going to get this thing down here and I'm going to start working it up. I'm going to do gutless method on it because I'm expecting a lot of internal damage on it whenever I get into it. The good thing is the shoulders, depending on what they are for the impact, neck meat, if it's okay, should be good. Hams and backstrap, that should all be okay unless it just was a really rough hit. But I'm going to get this down in the field and get started working on it. Well, I think I've got everything I can get off of him, but you see here, I was able to salvage both rear hams, the one front shoulder, and both back straps. It looks like he was hit right here. This shoulder has been obliterated. The neck has got a lot of damage on it too. Not really very salvageable. And I mean, he's oozing air out of his gut right now that I've taken some stuff off. But that's still a decent amount of meat to be able to get off of a roadkill animal that would have just laid in the ditch and, rotted. I mean, there's no sense in that. I mean, just leaving an animal like that, especially if you know immediately when it was hit and if you can get to it in time. I mean, you know, we will eat the majority of this, and then we're probably also, we've got some friends at church that like deer meat, so I'm going to take it. I'll grind some of it. I'll cut some into steaks, and I'll go give it to them. Kind of, it's not a Christmas present, but just as a, you know, a gift, something to try to bless them with, because they like it. They don't hunt. Well, a couple of them hunt, but they haven't hunted in a few years. So this is just a way to share, you know, this unexpected. I'm going to use the word gift loosely because it's. I'm not going to call it a gift, but you know, the fact that we are making the most of the situation that happened. You know, we'll have to take a look as I process this and see what the freezer situation is to see how much meat we have in the freezer. I've told my son that if he wants to hunt, if he wants to go shoot him something, he hasn't shot anything. Well, he shot a pronghorn last year in Wyoming, but other than that, he hadn't shot a deer, I guess now, and this is going on year 3 now for him as well. Just because we salvage so many roadkill animals that we really don't have to kill a whole bunch of deer. The cars on the road are doing it for us, unfortunately. But I'm going to put all this in my outside refrigerator. I'm going to let it age for probably anywhere from 7 to 9 days before I go through and butcher it and grind it up and do whatever we're going to do with it at that point. But I got to dispose of this carcass now, get this up to the house, get it in the refrigerator so it was frozen overnight. It was frozen out here this morning when I got to it. So it's perfectly fine, but I'm going to go ahead and get it in there so it can get cooling down really good. And, you know, just get that, try to keep it as clean and fresh tasting as possible. Do something with the carcass here, and then I'll see you back in a minute. All right, we're back at the house now. So I got to take all these game bags and take them over here and put them in the refrigerator. Cleaned it out the other day. I also want to talk about the way that I used to clean that deer over there just then, or not clean it, but quarter it up. You know, most people I know that hunt deer here in the east or southeast anyway, they all suspend their deer from a gambrel, or from a tree, whether it be on a hoist or a tree or whatever it is, a deer pole as they call it, different things, and they'll clean those deer hanging. That's fine. Do whatever works for you. When I started researching going out west, I learned about a method called the gutless method. And if I'm somewhere remote, like I was whenever we were out west in our pronghorn hunt, you know, you're a couple miles from the vehicle, you don't want to drag that deer out, obviously. So you learn to get the meat off the animal. You get your quarters off, you get your back straps, you get your tenderloin, you get your organ meat, neck meat, that sort of stuff. But you pack it in these bags and carry it out. You don't actually have to field dress the animal first. So that's the way that I actually prefer, even here on the farm. If I'm way down in the pines and I shoot a deer, or if I'm somewhere over on the other ridge across the valley over there and I'm a long way from a vehicle, I am perfectly fine just doing the gutless method, and that just leaves the carcass and the guts and everything right there together in one spot. And you actually get your meat off a lot cleaner because you don't run the risk of, you don't ever puncture that stomach lining. You don't ever puncture, well, you do whenever you're trying to go in and get the tenderloin, or if you want to get the heart or the liver out or any other organ meat. But that's the last thing you do. You go ahead and take everything else off the animal before you do that. That way you don't worry about any ruptured stomach contents, any intestinal contents, or in this case, you know, you never know what you're going to get into with a roadkill animal. No telling what kind of internal damage there'll be. You get all this meat off before you get any kind of bodily fluids on this meat. Just helps to have cleaner, better tasting meat all the way around. And I love the gutless method, even here in East Tennessee, even here on my farm. So if you've never heard about it, never used it, check it out. But let me show you what we do with those leg bones. So these are the leg bones from my buck here. I've saved them. They've been in the refrigerator since we got all the meat off of them, they've been in the refrigerator now for 3 days. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make homemade venison bone broth or deer stock with these leg bones. And I'll show you how we do that. Alright, so here's how I like to make my bone broth. I start by sawing the bones up. I do that in order to expose the bone marrow in the center of the bones, so that whenever I simmer the bones later, the marrow will make its way into the broth itself. I then go out to the garden and I use some of our potatoes, onions, turnips, radishes, whatever you have, coarsely chop them, put them on a baking sheet. Next, you just use your seasoning of choice. Here I'm using black pepper, reload rub, full metal jacket, and kosher salt. I'm going to hit that meat and those veggies pretty heavily. I'm going to roast them at 350 degrees for 30 minutes. You then take those, put them in a crock pot, and then you're going to just cover with water. Then you're going to simmer on low for 24 hours. Eventually the meat will fall off the bone. You're going to pull all the bone and the veggies out, strain, and then you're going to put into your containers for storage. You can either freeze, or in our case, we like to pressure can to make it shelf stable. Pressure can at 11 psi for 25 minutes for quarts, and you're done. Enjoy.